In this video, we are going to discuss the Winchester Model 94 lever action rifle in 30-30. Now, lever action rifles have somewhat become popular again here recently, but that's a topic for another video. And different models of lever guns, there's a lot of them out there. I will do a more generalized video about lever guns. The reason this is specific for this rifle and the caliber is at one point in time in the United States, this was the most popular and widely owned center fire sporting rifle in the United States of America. Was the Winchester 94. Where I come from, up in the Adirondacks, you'll find most of them are in 30-30 Winchester caliber, but 32 Winchester was also popular. You would find them up there, but 30-30 is the one. And that's why we're going to be specific on this. But before we get into it, if you would please subscribe. Hit the like button. Leave a comment, especially if you're liking the content of this. And if you could, become a member and help support the channel. Alright. Winchester. And I know you guys love Marlin. It's another lever gun, but that's going to be in another video. The Winchester 30-30, like I said, it was probably the most popular sporting rifle for a period of time, at least back in the 70s and the 80s. That has all changed, and like my video about the SKS rifle, there are more SKS rifles out there than Winchester 94s. And yes, they were made in other calibers. I had a Trapper carbine in .44 Magnum. They were made in .357 Magnum and everything else. But like I said, probably the most common one is in the caliber 30-30. Now, lever guns are unique. Right? In general, they're rugged, they're low maintenance. I mean, it's difficult to disassemble one of these. Okay, it's made. This one here is made out of all steel components. The only thing you'd have to worry about probably is breaking a firing pin from dry firing it. But you can shoot these, clean the bore out, clean the action, oil it a little, and that's about it in terms of maintenance, is keeping it clean. Now if you notice this gun, and that's how I got a deal on this, the receiver is discolored and the finish gone in here. And what that is from of years of holding the gun like this. Somebody hunted with this gun for a very long time and would carry it around and never oiled it, never took time to wipe it down and oil it. But inside the bore, the internal mechanism is pristine. This gun, I think, was built, I checked the serial numbers, 1974. Now, iconic rifle, small, lightweight. The one advantage somebody pointed out about a lever action gun is when you load it, say you load your 5 or 7 rounds, whatever goes in there, and you fire the gun once or twice, okay, you just take a cartridge and you top your magazine off again. Okay, if you're in a situation where you have to fire it rapidly or numerous times, okay, which is hopefully on a rare occasion, but you can basically keep your magazine topped off at all times very simply by throwing a cartridge in. And again, simple, basic, iron sights. Some of them were made to take scope mounts. So, you know, the angle ejects, the one that I got, you can put a scope mount on it, the newer ones. And unfortunately, they're no longer made in the U.S. Okay, sadly. But this gun is common, okay, and like the other guns we're going to critique, I will go through this and the reasons why this gun is critiqued under all these things we're talking about, the end of the world scenario, survivalists, preppers, or whatever, how this gun kind of falls into it. And another thing, when people ask me that question is, what would you use for concealed carry? What would you do for shit hit the fan gun, or a survival gun, or home defense and everything? What you should do is somewhat have a collection of firearms, like a hunting rifle, maybe an AR, and then a pistol of some sort, be it one for concealed carry and just service a large full-size 9mm with a 17 round mag or something. You should have an assortment of firearms covered, different scenarios. There is no one gun doing it all, okay, and that's why I'm making this series. So let's talk about this antique here. And the one thing about it is, at one point in time, okay, if you went into any place, you could go to some of the most desolate, out of the way places, and as long as there was a general store or a department store selling ammunition, you could get a box of 30-30. Now granted, most people who hunt and generally carry this never really had much more than 40 rounds, maybe 60 at the most, 3 boxes of shells. If you're a hunter, you're not going to burn up that much ammo. So but the only drawback with this is you won't find people with caches of ammo unless they're in the mindset to use this. They've already decided they're going to use this as a survival weapon or prepper weapon. Okay? So looking at the gun, let's critique it. It's going to be from 1 to 10. Alright? The shit hits the fan scenario. That's where society collapses and it's a free-for-all. And generally, most people are thinking bug out bag, get out of the city or whatever, and it's kind of an individual thing. Alright? Or to go off and hide in the woods or go to a secluded place and get away from urban areas where there's going to be problems. This gun, it's lightweight, it's handy, okay? The thing about, say if you had 50, 100 rounds of ammo, you're looking much like in the old westerns, a bandolier or something, which is exposed. Like a lot of hunters, a lot of guys that hunt used to have a ammunition belt with their skinning knife and rings for individual cartridges, which kind of exposes them and isn't that. You don't have really any military surplus ammo pouches or nothing to go with, so that's kind of a distraction there. But it is a lightweight gun. It's it's rugged, reliable. Very few things that can go wrong with this if you don't abuse it. All right, and iron sights. A lot of people kind of don't like that. I like iron sights because there's no batteries to run out. In a scope, you can drop this gun or just carrying it, bang it, and break the scope. Okay, so as far as that goes, depending on your needs, other than the fact that it's not, this would be good, but you can't load it that quick. you know, the rugged reliability is there, but loading it and the ammunition's about a 300-yard round. It's adequate for that purpose. I'm going to give it an 8. Okay, for shit hits the fan. Home defense. Again, this thing here in the city, in an apartment, in a suburban area, or even where I am, okay, houses are close by and that and everything. For home defense in that scenario, okay, that's going to be like a 2. Alright, this is not what you want for home defense. A pump shotgun, or even a handgun's probably the best, and a pump shotgun is kind of getting there, but those two would be better choices and cost less than even what a used one of these rifles is. So, home defense. Hunting, gonna give it a 10. If there was ever a gun designed to go hunting deer, black bear, you know, things like that, it's this rifle. And basically, most people own it for that. So, hunting wise, that's what this thing was made for. Oh, and then home defense, where it would be, I'm sorry about that. Home defense, if you owned a ranch, or if you lived in an isolated area where you'd be carrying this in a scabbard on your horse or on your back because you could encounter animals, or you lived in a very secluded area, or you had a large farm or ranch, this would be a decent gun for home defense. You know, there are better options and there are better calibers and that depending on where you live and what you're doing, but in general purpose, if you had one of these lying around or pick one up, or a lot of people may have this out of an estate, your father's gun, your grandfather's gun, and now you have it, okay? Yeah, in a situation like that, I'd give it an 8, if not a 9, you know. Lightweight, handy, under 300 yards or 200 yards. Under 200 yards, not a problem hitting something with the sights, even if your eyes ain't that good. So, yeah, it could be used in certain situations. Hunting, 10. General purpose shooting. Most hunting rifles, or whatever, you shoot them to be proficient with them and like to go out. Yeah, I'd shoot this at a target, 5-6 rounds, see how I do, try to score, but I wouldn't really shoot more than a box of ammo out of it in general. Okay, but if you're into, and again, it's not in 30-30, the cowboy action guns are more pistol calibers than that go with your revolvers. So I'm going to say for general purpose shooting and just plinking and goofing around, it's not going to be the gun. I'd give that a 5, you know. And that's why I see I'm going to make another video on lever guns in general, a generalized video, because for the competition, general purpose shooting, you would want something in a different caliber than this. Okay, that's why I gave it a 5. Now, as a militia, civil defense, natural disaster, you're isolated, roads are washed out, and you know, you're defending your town or whatever, or you know, you have no law enforcement, you have no electricity, and just like we had that disaster in my state. Now you have to rely on the local people that are not injured, doing all right, to more or less get together and defend the property or your area with your neighbors and other people who you live with. Now this gun, because, and again, it's the fact, like I said, at one point in time, and I think even now, you could find 30-30 ammo anywhere. And even if you went around to a small town or something, and say you had some elderly people that can't be out there doing like a security watch or something, they probably got a few rounds of ammo lying around the house, 30-30 ammo, to where even if you're kind of caught by surprise, it'd be easy to source the ammo for this gun. A few rounds, for a security perimeter thing. So again, this is a pretty good choice in a situation like that. I'm not talking where you're bugging out and running. I'm talking about where you're stuck and it's a different situation. Natural disaster, be it a hurricane or like what we got hit there in my state, North Carolina. Then that gun, it's up there. Again, other choices would be better, more modern design or something, but I'll give it an 8 for that. Just because it's a commonly owned gun and scrounging up ammunition should be easy, and that's why I'd say it's good there. Collector's item. Yes, come to find out what the value, what's going on with these is I went to an auction. Now I do know that lever guns, new ones, are quite expensive. Okay. Winchester no longer makes these rifles. And yeah, maybe they're common as hell, but they no longer make them. Okay. So they're more desirable, and I guess I went to an auction in all of them. There wasn't just Winchesters, there were Marlins and everything. All of these guns were in decent shape, better than this one. I didn't pay a lot of money for this because the gun's beat up. But they were in better shape than this, and they were all going for 700 units, 7 C notes. Okay. So, kind of as a collector's item or something, they hold their value, especially now for some odd reason lever guns are popular. So Winchester firearms always hold their value, okay, over time, especially the lever guns. So yeah, and yes, if you go and get the ones made in the 1890s or turn of the century, they do bring a premium. People do collect them and want them and do pay good money for older examples in nice shape. So yeah, it's a collector's item. Alright, ammo, price, and reliability. It's like I said, when I was in high school, you could get a box of brand name ammo for 5 beans, okay, back in the late 70s. If you went to Kmart or a department store or gun shop, you're looking at a $5 bill, alright. So ammo was plentiful, never thought you'd run out. Didn't even really reload it because the ammo was so cheap, for the time you put in and everything else, so I just piled the brass up. Plus, I didn't really shoot this gun a terrible lot, or the one I had back then. This one I used for developing ammo, and I shot it quite extensively for developing my reloads. That's why I purchased it. But off-the-shelf factory ammo works pretty well in it. You might have to try a few brands before you find one that your gun likes real good. But yeah, that's one of the pluses across the whole spectrum is ammunition availability, which is a common round. And the price right now is about $60. If you get like a foreign brand or something, it's about 0.65, 0.75 around under, and then it goes up depending on who made it and what type of bullet you're getting. It could go up to about $1 for each pop. So that's not terrible. There are other guns which, are more expensive. So the cost and availability is a plus. I give it a 9. Okay. Reliability. Okay, reliability with this gun is rugged. I've known people that have had them in the family for generations. Disassembling the action itself is kind of tricky, and I've done it once or twice. But it's unnecessary if you clean the gun, get in there with a brush or Q-tip and a rag and just oil it, clean the fouling. The only place you're going to get fouling is in the barrel and the bolt face. So you just rub that, clean off the bolt face and that. Make sure the extractor and that's got a little bit of oil on it just for lubrication. And it's a simple action. And don't dry fire the hell out of it. And your firing pin probably won't break. That's why a lot of people tell you not to dry fire your guns, especially these older style guns. That would cause a firing pin to break, which is probably the number one thing that would ever go wrong with this. So reliability, I'm put up there to 10. Okay, it's an old design. It's a simple design, and it's worked for well over 100 years. And generally, I've rarely seen people have problems with these guns unless the gun was dropped, damaged, abused, or left to rust or something. I've really never heard of one of these malfunctioning. Okay, a Winchester. Spare parts and accessories. Yes, the gun has been in production for a long time. It should be extremely easy to find any major place that has gun parts. Okay, it's a very common gun. So like a firing pin, an extractor or something should be no problem whatsoever of finding spare parts for this gun. Accessory wise, slings or sights. These older ones are not drilled and tapped for scopes. Okay. You may be able to change the sight somewhat or whatever. So accessory wise, it's really not much to accessorize. That's why the newer guns have like pick rails and other stuff on them and that, but these older ones don't. But parts are good. So I'm going to give that an 8 because the category is parts and accessories. Parts are pretty easy to find, but accessories are going to knock 2 points back because there's not really a lot you can accessorize on this. Alright, overall cost and value. Like I said, I think I bought one of these brand new when I got out of the Navy in 1986, an Anglo-Jet for 310 units. Now, or I don't know what the price was on them before Winchester stopped making them, but most lever guns, even the foreign made ones in Turkey and that, they're in the 700 unit class or above, depending on what make, model, and what you get. Okay, 30-30 is still a popular caliber in a lot of the lever guns. Okay, I think anyone who kind of makes lever guns at least makes one in that chambering. There's other chamberings, but 30-30 is still one of the most popular hunting rounds around. And like I said, I went to an auction and these guns were going for 700 units. There was a guy sitting next to me because it was like a gun shop, somebody passed away or something and they were closing out, so there was a huge amount of guns there. There's a couple hundred guns there, and there were several lever action rifles, okay, used and new and all that other stuff, but I think most of them were used. But used guns, they were going for 700 units, okay. And Winchester's being a Winchester, that's going to carry a premium. You know, because there is a gun. A friend of mine had a couple guns his dad left him. And he had a 30-30 lever action rifle. And he had a semi-automatic 12-gauge rifle. And when I looked at it, if you look on the top of a Winchester rifle, on the barrel and that, there's a proof mark, a little tiny proof mark. Well, department stores, Sears and Roebuck, used to sell Ted Williams brand guns. You know, I remember going there when I was a kid. Well, his father bought from Sears at the gun counter. He bought a lever action gun, says Ted Williams, Sears and Roebuck, blah, blah, blah. It's actually a Winchester 94. Winchester had a deal with Sears where they would make their guns, the 94, and I forget the shotgun model, but it's a Winchester-made shotgun. It's just instead of on the barrel putting Winchester model 94, it has Sears and Roebuck's Ted Williams series or whatever. It is a Winchester, and when you look it up in the gun values, you're going to say, yes, it is a Winchester-made rifle, but you're not going to get the premium for it saying Winchester with trademark like this one does. So that's another thing you got to watch out for. And I think, like I said, but this was quite a few years ago. It could have been well over 10 or almost 15 years ago. I went into a gun shop. I knew the guy that ran it. And like I said, the finish on this gun was screwed up. You know, and I said from where the guy handled it and never oiled it or wiped it down or whatever. But the gun is in good shape. It's been knocked around. It was hunted with and carried for many years. And I just needed something with a decent bore that was operable that would, you know, I could do load development with. And I got this gun at now, considered now, at a very, very reasonable price point. You know, because of that. And the scratches and all that other stuff. So, you know, if you're going to go home with it, or you want a gun for prepping, or just a handy utility rifle, you know, that could be used for hunting and can be used in a defensive thing if the, you know, need arrives, you may be able to get one for a lot better price point than what I'm saying. And you know, like I said, as long as the thing doesn't look like it was run over by a bus or something, it'll probably work. You know, especially if you know the person you're getting it from. Say you got it from an estate, or somebody's dad had it or something, and he passed away and they don't want the gun in the house and they want to sell it. You know, be fair with them. You could get one for a good price point. Alright guys, thank you and stay tuned.